Your dog has never read a self-help book. They don't know what sadness is called, or why tears happen, or what emotional pain means in any abstract sense. And yet, the moment you cry, something shifts in them. They come closer. They get quieter. Some dogs press their whole body against you, as if they're trying to hold you still. For years, most people assumed this was loyalty, or love, or some kind of canine instinct to comfort. But behavioral science has started asking a more precise question. What is actually happening inside a dog's brain and body in that moment? And is any of it really about you? Picture this. It's a Tuesday evening. Maybe you've had a hard conversation with someone you love, or you've been carrying something heavy all day, and you finally let yourself feel it. You're sitting on the couch, maybe crying quietly, maybe just sitting in that hollow silence after tears. And your dog, who was calmly asleep across the room, gets up, walks over slowly, sits beside you, maybe puts their head in your lap. No barking, no zoomies, just presence. Most owners in that moment think they know, they understand, they feel what I feel. And that interpretation, as warm as it is only partly true, because what's actually driving your dog's behavior is both simpler and more remarkable than human empathy. In 2012, researchers at the University of London conducted a study that quietly changed how we understand this behavior. They exposed dogs to 4 conditions: a stranger pretending to cry, a stranger humming, their owner pretending to cry, and their owner humming. What they found was striking. Dogs approached people who were crying, regardless of whether it was their owner or a stranger, far more often than those who were simply making noise. And when they approached, they did so with submissive, low-arousal body language, not playful, not anxious, just quietly attentive. Think of it this way. Imagine your dog's brain has a kind of emotional weather sensor. It doesn't read words or understand narrative, but it is exquisitely attuned to shifts in the emotional climate of a room. The change in your breathing, the quality of the sounds you make, the stillness of your body, the tension in your muscles. Dogs read all of this, not as concepts, but as signals. There's also a neurochemical dimension. A 2017 study from Azabu University in Japan found that positive social interaction between humans and their dogs triggers mutual spikes in oxytocin, the same bonding hormone released between a parent and infant. Your emotional state doesn't just signal distress to your dog, it activates a care response that is, in a very real biological sense, built into the relationship. Here's where it gets interesting, and where most advice gets this wrong. The most common instinct when a dog approaches you during an emotional moment is to reward it, to hug them tightly, talk in a high emotional voice, and lean into the moment together. And that's a completely understandable human response. But from a behavioral science perspective, there's a subtle complication. Dogs learn through association and reinforcement. If every time you cry, you pull your dog close, talk to them in an intense, emotionally elevated tone, and hold them against your body, you're not just accepting comfort, you're teaching your dog that your distress is a cue for a very specific, emotionally charged interaction. Over time, some dogs begin to monitor their owners more vigilantly. They become hyper-aware of emotional fluctuations. They may start showing low-level anxiety during times you're simply tired or quiet or focused because they've learned that shifts in your emotional state require their active response. Most owners do this out of love. Science simply suggests that calm reciprocity, acknowledging the dog gently, without intensity, preserves the response without accidentally amplifying it into vigilance. Dogs who are consistently exposed to high emotional volatility, even loving, warm emotional volatility, can gradually develop what researchers call emotional contagion sensitivity. It's not a clinical disorder, but it does mean the dog begins to carry a low-level alertness that doesn't fully switch off. You might notice it as a dog who follows you from room to room more than they used to, who can't settle when you're on a phone call, who seems unsettled even on calm days. They're not being anxious for no reason. They've been quietly trained, entirely without intention, to treat your emotional state as something they need to manage. And the tragedy of that, if left unexamined, is that it creates a relationship dynamic where the dog is never quite off duty. That's not good for them, and research suggests it gradually increases cortisol levels in dogs over time, the same stress hormone it elevates in humans. The shift isn't about loving your dog less in emotional moments. It's about understanding what your dog actually needs versus what feels meaningful to us. When your dog comes to you while you're crying, they're not there to process your grief with you. They're there because something in the emotional atmosphere of the room changed and their nervous system responded. The most helpful thing you can do in that moment isn't to intensify the interaction, it's to let them do what they came to do, be present, without charging the moment with additional emotional weight. A calm hand, a slow exhale, letting them settle beside you without pulling them into your distress. What this does over time is teach your dog something quietly profound, that their presence is enough, that they don't need to escalate or fix or monitor, that they can simply be near you, and that's the whole job. Dogs thrive in that role. It's the one they're genuinely suited for. Your dog doesn't understand why you cry, but somewhere in the architecture of your relationship, built from thousands of small shared moments, they've learned that when your emotional weather changes, moving closer matters. That's not nothing. That's actually something quite extraordinary. And understanding the science behind it doesn't make the moment less tender. It just helps you be a little more thoughtful about how you receive it. Because the best thing you can offer your dog in those quiet, difficult moments might just be your own calm.